Verse, chorus, universe, DL here with part 2 of your Offense in Music. If you missed Mondays, go back and listen to it. The beginning of our Offense in Music with the fabulous, the amazing Kari Kirkland joining us. Thanks to her again. Hopefully she joins us a lot more this year. This conversation was an interesting one, and almost to a point that we talked about maybe doing this every single year on the same exact topic, because this could just go forever and ever. We'd love to hear from you all. Please let us know what you think, who you not necessarily agree with or don't agree with, because I think everybody was making some pretty good points, and I could see everybody's side to it. But join in on the conversation with us. Also, a note on Kari's audio, which is terrible because one of the mics didn't end up working properly. Hey, it is what it is when you get 5 people in a room together. But apologies for her audio. Apologize to Kari for us inviting her only to screw her audio up. Here's the episode, you guys. Do you think that you would ever feel comfortable sharing a political opinion on this podcast?
That depends. It depends on a lot of factors. There are 2 things, and I challenge our listeners to have
2 shots right now.
Yeah, I challenge them in 2 ways. One, not to reduce anything our opinion, what they think our opinions are, to any one soundbite. Number 1, because most of these issues,
big ask these days,
we will have like very nuanced opinions on things that we might be like, well, I'm 80% this on this, but then there are these corner cases where it doesn't. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. Yeah. And then also there's here are 10 things, and if this person doesn't agree with me on those 10 things, they're on the other team. So that I feel like is y'all need to read more books. Y'all need to like consume media from the other point of view. Mm-hmm. And not, as humans, we need to not allow ourselves to get shunted into a silo of thinking one way or another. And to do that, you have to actively seek out uncomfortable opinions, mm-hmm. and not the single soundbite versions that I'm talking about. Not the, I disagree with this one thing. Well, what else? What other layers are around that soundbite that I don't agree with, that I'm like, oh, well, maybe this person isn't 100% wrong on this. That's the thing, is it's not binary. It's not like right or wrong. It's like, well, I mostly disagree with so-and-so on this, but I kind of like 20% I get what they're saying. I challenge listeners to get to that point.
Well, and I think that you make a really good point. And another really good point is the fact that we're not coming to a black and white discussion or answer on any of this. Sure. This is all a discussion.
Right.
So obviously, none of us, I didn't think, have like crazy strict opinions on things. No. And I think if we had gotten into the gun control thing,
I really don't like the Rolling Stones.
We could have had. You loved their last album.
Michael Bublé.
Love it. Let's calm down.
You thought it was the top 3.
I mean, yeah, of a band I'm not a huge fan of. Yeah.
It's not good. It wasn't good. It was stupid. It was stupid lyrics written by children.
It was really bad.
I don't understand how those men could be speaking the English language for the past 70 years and write that stupid fucking album.
Why you be angry with me?
You gotta listen to the riffs.
Yes, musically great.
See, 80-20.
Great guitar.
That right
exactly.
there.
See?
I like the
lyrics garbage.
I don't give a fuck about the lyrics. Might as well
don't just
jump.
edit this for me to say, I like the riffs. Yeah. That's what I'm editing.
Yeah. You like the lyrics, I like the riffs. You don't like the lyrics, I don't like the riffs.
There's chocolate in my peanut butter. There's peanut butter in my chocolate.
Somehow it doesn't work with Screwball.
It doesn't work with Screwball.
Peanut butter and whiskey is not the same analogy. The wrong throat. How many throats do you have?
was trying to send it down. I've only got one. I was trying to send it down somebody else's throat.
That's the many throats of Sven.
The many throats of Sven.
Oh my god.
That's good
Join
stuff.
us for week 1 where we take a look at Tibetan throat singing.
Who the
By
fuck were you
asking
saying the other
questions.
day was in trouble for cultural fucking Rosalia? When does that stop? When do we
What
get?
did she appropriate?
So she's from
So she's Spanish,
Yeah.
and now she's in trouble because she's taking music from.
Catalonian.
Okay,
And,
From Spain.
And essentially.
so it's a
is-
region of Spain.
Yeah.
So it's essentially like a singer in Seattle getting in trouble for singing Nashville country.
Or fucking Keith Urban, who's from Australia, singing country music.
Keith Urban's from Australia.
He's
Yeah.
from Australia.
That dude will stick a boot in your ass. Wait, what are we mad about here?
Sorry, let's edit this. That
Wait,
is-
you don't like
I
Keith Urban?
I don't.
What?
I think he's very talented.
Yeah, fuck yeah, it is.
I think it's very confusing to my brain that he
Well,
speaks
so
in a certain
what is-
accent and
is
sings in a completely
flamenco
different
then?
accent.
Is that more of a culture because
I
it's
think
older?
if he sang country music in his Australian accent, it would be very different.
But that's what
hilarious.
Rosalia's in trouble for. Because she's like Catalonian.
I think if you don't
and
have
she's
an
doing
accent, you
music from
shouldn't sing
other-
in that accent.
Huh? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence on that. I see.
Yeah, like,
If you can figure out a reason,
Okay,
like an instance where
Catalan.
it's okay,
but you knew what I was saying.
then
Like,
I would be okay with it.
I think it depends. Because I feel like there are some musicians
Apparently,
who view
that's-
their art
yeah.
more like a complete act. Like,
Sure.
Like David
How the
Bowie.
fuck were we
Not an
editing
alien.
Sure.
But certainly played the character of an alien. So
He's
like,
an elevator.
I think you can be an Australian
These
and play the
conversations could just
character
fade in
of
and out.
an
I think
American
it
country singer.
Probably will.
Yeah.
I don't know because we don't know. This is one of those things where it's okay now because we don't know about aliens that we can appropriate aliens. But then in like 50 years,
fuck?
when they're like halfway here,
What are they
then
doing?
it's like,
Over there.
I like it
But
because they're
Ziggy-
farsing
Ziggy Stardust, I
appropriation.
think, still is like
an
it's
elevator.
a human enough character
He's a
that
mama papa coming for you.
David Bowie
He's a space invader.
can.
He'll be
David-
rock and roll
Get
bitch for
away.
you.
I don't even know what I'm
talking about
saying.
aliens.
We were talking about aliens and cultural
I think that's
appropriation.
fine.
But like,
Space face close to mine, love.
so how's it? I don't know.
Culture.
I, feel
I
like it's a
don't
character.
think it's
Culture.
appropriation in the sense that
You're not.
Keith Urban.
What are we doing?
aliens aren't proven yet.
What the fuck are we doing?
We're talking about Keith Urban singing in an accent that is not his accent. That's why I get so angry.
What is culture?
Isn't that just another form of acting?
Sure.
So if you're a
That's very
character-
true. See? Then now it's
And
okay.
also,
Carrie's changed my. That's all seriousness. That's a very good point.
I think you're also still entitled to the opinion that you don't think that sounds
But
good,
you don't like
right?
I think it sounds great. I think he's very talented.
But then
You
you, hear
don't
him
like
talk
Keith
and you're
Urban
like,
because
wait a
of his
minute.
voice. You don't like Keith Urban because of who he is.
Keith Urban's fine. I don't care.
For real?
Yeah. He's done nothing to me. He was an alcoholic for a while. He's never beaten anyone that I know of.
But did the whole post 9/11 we'll stick a boot in your ass?
That's Toby Keith.
That's Toby Keith.
Yeah.
I'm mixing up Toby
You're-
Keith
you're
and Keith Urban.
very big.
I am so
my
racist
God.
Okay.
against whites.
No, they have very similar names.
They all look the same to me.
They're
I'm
all
sorry.
named the same.
It's like the Zach Bryan, Luke Bryan. Like
Yeah.
there's so many people with similar names.
Fuck
It's-
Zach Bryan.
I don't.
In that album, right? We hate that. JK, girl.
Hell yeah. That album fucking rules.
I have a
Have you
very
listened to that album?
unpopular
What?
The
opinion.
Zach Bryan, new Zach Bryan album. I
You
think you
love-
might be into it.
Culture.
You love culture.
Culture is meant
probably would be
to
into
be
it, though.
We should listen to it
appropriated.
tonight.
I'm sure I've heard
Wait,
like
this
things
is
from
real
it,
quick.
but not the whole album.
Ooh. Guys, hot take of the night.
Culture
Culture.
is meant to be appropriated.
Go on.
It is how we interact as humans. If we stay in our own little tribes and don't cross,
Sure.
mix, pollinate stuff, we're all going to be fighting with each other for fucking ever.
So what's the definition, or what's the difference between cultural inspiration and cultural appropriation?
I
That's a
think they're
great
the same
Are they the
thing.
same?
I don't think there's.
What is the difference?
I think appropriation is taking it as your own.
And
Like-
not crediting the original.
Yeah.
Like Elvis.
Did
Ish.
he not credit? I
Did
feel
he?
like it
Okay, maybe
was
he did.
very well
I'm
known
totally-
that he was very influenced
That's-
by.
then that's so
But
that's a bad example.
Once it's not a bad example because where's the line? Is it acceptable because he grew up in poor town Memphis and he was watching those people do that stuff and that's what got him into it.
Right.
Does that make it more acceptable than somebody that didn't? Than fucking Led Zeppelin who heard like, fuck, listen to this American blues shit. Let's fucking do that.
Or Eminem.
What did Eminem do to you?
What?
Yeah.
Sorry.
He didn't do anything to me. I love Eminem.
It's a great question. Where does
I feel like growing up in that culture, that makes it okay for him.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not.
Oh, okay.
I'm just another example of someone who was.
He didn't grow up in a cult. He grew up in a white trailer park.
Well, he still grew up
in Detroit.
Around that kind of music and around those.
So because he was in Detroit. Because here's the thing,
no.
we're in a day and age now where we can fucking listen to anything.
Yeah.
Like, I can listen to Detroit rock anytime I want. So if I start playing Detroit rock, I'm not appropriating it.
But I think you choose your friends and you choose the people you surround yourself with, right? And if you surround yourself with people that like a certain music, you are probably more likely to also like that same music.
Very true.
This is where it's.
That's interesting because we all have.
Now I'm gonna start skirting.
I think it depends on age. When I was in the Navy and I was hanging out with only black people, I only listened to rap. That's all I listened to for 4 fucking years was rap. I listened to a lot of Strokes too, but that was privately in my own time. I didn't let anybody else know I was listening to. Except
Were you
System of a
stroking
Down.
it by
People
yourself?
Yeah, I wasn't not stroking it.
Devil's advocate that and encounter with. If you were only around black people and you were only listening to rap, is that not passing judgment on a race only listening to a certain kind of music?
Is it passing judgment if it was a fact? Like
they didn't listen to any other music.
I had one buddy that had an Earth, Wind and Fire album that you've talked about, and we've thumped the shit out of that. Okay. I had one other friend that loved listening to System of a Down in the shower. Other than that, 110% rap. Okay. 100%.
You said 110. What is it?
They were
good point.
Listening to, you don't know what their strokes were.
Very true. Very true.
Or did?
That's very true. No,
also
I didn't.
The Navy.
Well,
it was the Navy.
I did have one my best friend that I lived with got really high off cough syrup, and I caught him listening to Enya. so there's that.
That tracks.
Who can say?
Yeah.
Enya made 91 million pounds and lives in a castle. So.
Oh, I love Enya.
With her cats.
It's a catzel.
Sail away.
Take a drink.
Please leave that in. I think you're editing this episode.
I am.
And that one.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
It's gonna be a fun one.
How do you follow that?
Are there songs or artists that I could come to somebody with on this podcast and say, we're going to cover this next week, and you would say no?
If they say no, you call me, I'll come back.
Oh my.
I'll talk about anything.
Threats.
It's a good question.
My gut instinct is that I would want to talk about it.
Okay.
No matter who it was. That's my gut instinct, but then I'm trying to think, is there anybody?
I'm still itching to have that conversation
Like
about the Jason Aldean song with somebody.
If in 3 weeks or whatever, I was like, we're doing that Daughters album, would you say, no, I'm not doing it?
Because I'm ignorant, I do not know what happened. So in that case, I would.
It's pretty abusive stuff, but it's not, like I said, it's not proven, but it's out there. Yes. Which makes it even
it's way worse than that.
Yeah. But I'm trying to, it's like the younger female with the older male type stuff. This humor just got dark.
You were well into adulthood. I think I would say no.
Okay.
Because that is one of my my not forgivables, is taking advantage of children.
Yeah. Even if it's not proven, though.
It's not proven.
It's a good point. Because I do acknowledge that there is a lot of... I get that there's a massive, massive, massive problem with... It's very simple to say innocent until proven guilty when the system doesn't work that way. When the system's fucked. And it is. It's very fucked. But it's still... There's no case. That's what I'm kind of trying to get to here, is what do we do with that?
Why isn't there a case?
I honestly don't know. Do you know?
Nope.
No.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Why is it the podcast's responsibility to... So, okay, here's the thing. I feel like it's turning more and more away from, like, we want to talk about the music, but the artist is to, like, talking about the thing that someone did.
I want to talk about the album.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about the guy. I think that album's insanely incredible, and that's what I want to talk about. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Is if the album was a fucking 8 out of 10, and is that wrong of me to be like, hey, fuck you. Who cares how good the album is? If the guy is accused of this, he's accused of this. It's the same thing with athletes. Like if you're a good enough athlete, it's been proven, you can do pretty much anything, and you're gonna stay on the fucking roster. You can be on tape in an elevator beating the shit out of your girlfriend, and you're gonna be running in the game next week. That's happened. That happened to Ray Rice. That's if it was a shitty album, I wouldn't care as much. And is that a really bad thing?
This is such a hard...
That's what she said.
There's so many nuances that go along, like what kind of crimes are unforgivable? How does that affect the music? How does that affect your opinion of that person? Because there's some things.
And how does it affect the listeners?
Fuck the listeners. Let's talk about... No, seriously, and all, like, outside of that, because we're talking... Even if we're just talking about us talking about, ignoring the fact that other people are listening to it, it affects, like we said, if you have that knowledge that somebody possibly did something horrible or actually did something horrible, it affects your opinion going into it.
Yeah. But is it okay to then come on the podcast and share that like, hey, I learned this about this person.
So if
this is how it's affected the way I listen to their art.
Honestly, tomorrow,
sharing that,
we're going to talk about a death. And while I was learning about this person that I've worshipped for my entire life, found out that he beat the shit out of somebody. And I'm like, great, ruined. You fucking ruined it for me. And I hate that.
I did it on purpose.
But I still think I feel like that's still a valid thing to share with the audience.
Look at my notes right
and it's
now.
good for the audience to know where you stand on that.
God.
So instead of just avoiding the topic.
Is that fair for me to do that and ruin it for somebody else, though, either?
How do you know it's going to ruin it for them? Like, maybe they're into it. Maybe they're fucked up too.
There's the light bulb.
So, I mean, there's so many layers to this. Like, I don't think there's a right answer. So
welcome to the Terror Dome, Kari.
Way more intense than I was looking through my notes and I was like, oh, this is going to be such a spirited discussion about interesting topics. And then I'm like, oh my god, everyone's going to cry and run over each other in the driveway.
No, we don't have enough cars. Perfect.
You don't have enough cars.
Ooh, what size shoe do you wear?
Well,
I didn't know it was Gordon Lightfoot.
I was.
Well, okay, so I guess what I was saying is like...
Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald joke
Broke
in there
Kathy
somewhere.
Smith's face. Kathy Smith, the lady that injected John Belushi with his final.
Oh my god.
Jim Belushi?
John.
Okay. Yeah.
Jim's the one that should have died.
She spent some time in prison, but she was a groupie, and he got mad at her one day and punched her in the face enough to break her cheekbone.
So I think what I was trying to say is like, wouldn't you?
I don't.
Oh yeah.
God.
Why didn't we do this in the hot tub?
Well,
I think like it would be awesome for people to know that that you discovered that, and then that's how it impacted you. And to your point, like, does that ruin it for someone else? I think let them decide, because they're intelligent beings that at least know how to turn on their computer or electronic device and
let me ask you this.
That's true.
Let me ask you this then. We never find out about the beating.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. I stopped myself. We never found out about it. And you say your thing about Gordon Lightfoot, and we're like, yeah, man, I fucking love that guy's music. Like, God, we loved him.
Yeah.
And then somebody writes in, and they're like,
hey, remember when
hey,
he beat the shit out of Kathy Smith?
Like, you asshole. Like, you're just going to disregard the fact that he did this and this and that.
That's fair.
Okay, but next episode, do we apologize?
I mean, apologize for ignorance? That's really not
for
a
ignorance.
good point. I mean,
do we apologize for, like, them saying, hey, assholes, the dude beat the fuck out of his... Do we
sorry,
then,
we don't
do
know
we have
everything.
Is that what we do? Do we come back on and we do that?
I don't think we need to respond to every single person that has something mean to say about what we talk about either, though.
Okay.
We have a lot of...
Trial by combat.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that was easier than I thought it would be.
That's what she said.
This is true. Frequently.
I don't think you're going to solve this. You're never going to answer this question.
I mean, that one was kind of answered. It seems like everybody's pretty cool with it.
Do we all agree? Next question.
Okay, maybe not that question.
Okay, the death
but like
penalty,
the overall topic of like, what do you do with
The
controversial?
death penalty?
What about it?
Let them fry.
It works.
It's been
Shoot
proven.
them all like guts.
Science. Science.
Or do we let them like burden the economy by rotting in prison?
Are there artists? Okay.
What are we doing?
Although that's a giant moneymaker for some. Privatized prisons are an entire
Oh,
industry.
sure.
So, I mean, you talk about money making.
But then the morality of like letting them live after they did something horrible.
They're trying to build a prison.
What if they didn't do it? That's a good point.
They're trying to build a prison.
They should appeal.
What if they can't appeal? What if they're just rotting? There's a guy in Idaho Falls that was accused of a rape.
What are we doing there? What are we doing
Spent
there?
20 years in prison.
No, this isn't a
Got
thing.
released because of DNA evidence came about, and he's like, I told you guys.
What are we doing
Sued
there?
Idaho Falls, got like $21 million. He died like a
nothing to
couple weeks ago.
Do with
Like,
anything.
so he spent 50% of his life in jail,
jail.
was released for a year,
And then died.
and then died.
He should have written an album, and then we could have talked about it.
Exactly.
You see why I can say stuff like
What I
that.
found.
Look, that shouldn't have.
No.
You know.
From a cat toy.
Yeah.
Has there ever been an artist
Thank you.
or a song that you have decided not to listen to because of shit like that?
Shit like what?
Things,
Oh my
things,
gosh, are you listening?
things they've done. Things they've done outside of music. It's very obvious that you've struggled with the whole "As I Lay Dying"
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
Faulkner?
You've talked about it. I feel like
Yep.
every episode.
That
Not every episode. That's a little harsh.
funny every
season.
time.
that has definitely changed my view of that band's music.
Okay.
That's not true. Let me.
Do you still
rephrase
listen
that.
to him?
No. I still think the music's good. I just don't feel compelled to. I don't actively choose to not listen to them.
Do you think it's because of the stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's not like I am consciously choosing to not listen to this band. I think subconsciously don't listen to them.
Gotcha.
It's good music. But he also contracted to have his wife killed.
Yeah.
and served his time, and I was ready to be like, okay, that's another thing. I feel like people should have the chance to
Reconcile.
and repent.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everyone's guilty
Depends on the
100% forever until the end of time.
Depends on the crime. I'm sorry, if you mess with children.
Death penalty, right?
100%.
Why not?
100%. I'll do it myself. Happy to help.
What is the difference between
with a gun.
hard stop, there is no pass, and the death penalty?
'Cause Idaho
They're the
Falls.
same thing.
I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I really honestly do. I'm definitely on the line of like letting a person live the rest of their life in a not great situation.
You're for torture.
Sure.
I like her more and more.
Found Kari's kink.
The penalty is bad for two reasons. It's an easy out.
Yes,
And
I
number
agree.
two, I think that not everybody commits the crimes that they are convicted of.
Yeah.
I agree with
And
that
so
too.
those two things make
Yeah,
me,
those are-
on the side of like, let's not do that. But on the other side, yeah, I mean, I think there is a part of me that says, and I think it can equate to the music industry, where it's like, you're maybe not gonna buy that band's music
Sure.
anymore. You're not gonna, but your opinion on this podcast could also persuade other people to have the knowledge to make that educated decision as well. With, so like maybe it is good to talk about your opinion, because then
That's a really good point.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yep.
You stated that.
Have you?
Better
Do
than
you
I
have
was
an
trying to
artist
put
that you
together in my head.
or do you have an artist you stopped listening to because of?
I have a few artists that I lost respect for, and same thing. I actively just don't listen to them anymore. When WAP came out and when I saw that hot mess on the Grammys, I was just like, yeah, no,
WAP.
What?
Oh, who is
Wap.
that? Is that Lizzo?
no. It's Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion.
Oh, you're super into them
I
until
was
then?
not, but what I'm saying is like when I heard that, so many women were like, "Oh, it's so empowering, it's so out there, it's so like, like unapologetically female." And I'm saying this right now, like I'm all for those things, but like that song offended me. That song really, like even Lily Allen. I wasn't a huge fan of Lily Allen, but Lily Allen came out with this stupid like Jingle Bell song, "Fuck You," and it was like, really, you had like. Can you not take the lowest common denominator, please? Can people stop treating entertainment like this just mass bowl of Cheetos, please? Like, it's terrible.
What happens if she has a wet ass pussy?
There's a whole song about it.
Even CeeLo, like same name, same name song name, same.
You didn't like that song?
You know what I hate about that song is that it's done in this major chord, which makes it flippant and seems so trite. And it's like, if you're really that angry at somebody,
Totally disagree.
I just can't.
Very much disagree.
And I.
That song was so fucking empowering for me.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Don't you smile when you flip people off sometimes, though?
No,
Okay.
I don't, because I think.
I think
we've
this is a good-
lost- I think we've lost. It's like we're desensitized to the point.
Oh, for sure.
where doing those things, saying those things, mean nothing anymore. And when you make it like this little sing-songy, like, well, fuck you, and it's like, really, like you've completely taken the meaning away.
Diluted the power
Yeah.
of the words.
And you say it so many times in the song that it means nothing now.
I mean, I think like the closest, and this is gonna be a really cheesy analogy, but closest thing I can think of is like, I remember when I was a kid, and I would say like, if I would say the F word, if I'd say fuck, my dad would like, I was in trouble. Let's just say that, right? Like, over the top trouble. I feel like I hear it so much nowadays that like if my 7-year-old said it to me, I would probably just be like, huh, that's pretty funny. Maybe you shouldn't say that anymore. Like, it's been so like to me it's
Sure.
Yes, it's a word that a 7-year-old shouldn't use, but like the offense has been taken out of it because I've heard it used so many ways, and it's like the substitute word that can be used for any other word in the English language. You can just say fuck and it works. And so it's like the meaning is gone. Like it just takes on the meaning of the context now, and it has no. So I can see how like in just widespread dilution of, or not even it's being so abrasive has become so common denominator that it's like the normal. So it's like, to be normal, you're abrasive and crude.
You're more talking about an offended in a sense of art. You're talking about being offended in a sense. There are artists out there where I'll say I'm not gonna say that. Mm-hmm. There are artists out there on social media or whatever that you can very quickly say, like, this is fake as shit. Mm-hmm. This is very fake. And it's offensive. Fucking Sven with Michael Bublé.
Yeah.
He loves Michael Bublé.
That's a very, very different kind of offended, which is a very yeah.
It's certainly not to the level of child abuse or spouse abuse or gun control or any of those things. I think.
So who gets to be the dictator of what's worse? What our levels are? Like, I get
the offensive coordinator.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Like, look, the low hanging fruit, justifiably, is kids, which is why it's so easy to go after a Michael Jackson.
Mm-hmm. This is why I think, like, whoever's listening in to the episode gets to decide that.
At this point is nobody.
Or a lot of people with completely opposing views that are waiting to see how it turns out.
Yeah.
But, like, I think the thing is to, like, present the information, present your perspective, and then let the final, you're not given a final decision. I think that's the thing. You're not, like, telling people this is what you should think about this artist. This is how you should feel about it. It's saying, this is what I feel. This is where I'm coming from.
Yes.
You know the information now. Do with it.
Decide
like
for yourself.
Yeah. And I think if you hold back your opinion, you hold back information, or you skirt around stuff, you're not giving people the fair opportunity to A, get educated, and then B, form their own opinion. Or if they're forming their opinion, it's like a one-sided one because they don't know the whole story.
Yeah.
Sven wins.
So, don't answer. You don't have to give specifics. Has there ever been a time on the pod where you held back, whether you thought you maybe should give a, not even necessarily political opinion, but a possibly offensive opinion that you held back on?
I think I definitely do when I know that I'm in the room with somebody. I don't think...
You also tell me to edit things out a lot.
Also true. I don't think unfortunately, which is stupid of me to the listener because I can't see them, but I think of who's in the room and who I'm going to offend with my words. So if I'm just you and me, I know what I can say. If Evil's in the room...
But even then, you'll still say...
You gotta use small words.
I think I have that good Evil. Yes. I think you're meaner to the ones you love the most. And because I love David so much, I know that I can be more offensive and hurt his feelings more, and he's still going to love me back. And I'm still trying to get there with Evil. And so I feel like sometimes I do hold back because I don't want to hurt your feelings, whereas David can go fuck himself.
What feelings
You know what I mean?
is she talking about?
You're fragile.
You're not fragile.
That is, yeah, I agree. I self-censor. It's usually in the context of, like, if I say this thing, it can't exist just by itself. There's so much more opinion and nuance surrounding it that we're never going to be able to explore, it's just not worth putting that soundbite out there, because it's not it's a veneer. It's not a full representation of the idea or thought.
That's fair.
I do
Is
that a
that
lot.
based on self-preservation or preservation of the thing? Like preservation of the podcast?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Like,
So then speaking to that then, is there a fear of, if we do, not even the listeners, if we do start to broach these conversations, if This Is America turns into this big knockdown, drag out gun control thing, is there a fear of us insulting each other and then our feelings are hurt and we're not wanting to fucking come to the podcast next week?
I think we're getting to the point. Where we all know each other enough to know that we're all very open-minded, and that we all very much understand that there are a handful of issues that we do not agree on at all. And so there's no point in arguing certain things to the limit that they could be argued, if that makes any sense,
Yeah,
without
totally does.
getting into specific things.
I'm very okay with other people having different opinions than what
Exactly.
I have. And I understand that I have a very specific and unique viewpoint and position to view the world from, and not everyone can see through that lens, and their experiences are different from mine, sometimes very different from mine, and that's going to color the way they see, view, interpret, and things and the opinions they hold, and I think that's good. Yeah. And so I like having discussions and maybe sparring a little bit about stuff, but I never want to fight over. I will never fight over anything, because it's not that important to me for someone across the table to have the exact same opinion as I do.
Yeah.
I'm interested in their viewpoint, and we might be heated and disagree, but at the end of the day, I don't get emotionally compromised from that.
Because you're a mature adult. But I would say, like, I would love it if you didn't self-censor as much, because I know for sure there's things that I say that I'm like, okay, Jimmy's gonna have a pushback, and you don't.
Pushback.
Because I know there's definitely things that we fight. Well, it doesn't have to be a fight. Like,
No,
I would just love to know, like, the push. But also, like, I respect you so much that you could say something completely contradictory to whatever comes out of my mouth, that instead of like, okay, let's fight about it, it'd be like, okay, wait, somebody I respect just said something that just, I gotta take a step back and like spin it in my head. And I think that's how we grow as humans.
I agree 100%. The times that I do like hold things back, it's usually like, if I say this thing, it is going to derail the entire fucking conversation. And like, whoever I'm talking with, interacting with, will probably come to a position where we're both okay. That might be 4 hours later. So I'm just like, not worth it in this context.
That's fair.
Yeah. And listeners, I don't have the privilege or I don't have the opportunity to have that dialogue with listeners.
Yeah.
So it's even worse just to throw something that's like fucking pulling the pin on a grenade, just fucking throwing it out there, and then moving on to talk about whatever stupid dad joke or I'm evil. You know, it doesn't.
That was a really good impersonation.
I know. I've been working on me for a long time.
Yeah. So, ayo.
Mic check.
More water.
Ha ha ha.
So, so as a podcast, where do we go from here? As a podcast,
Always forward. Never up, never backward. Sometimes upward.
What about to the side?
Whirling. Always whirling towards victory.
Nope.
No?
are these things we breach? Are these things we don't? Are these albums we talk about? Are these albums we don't? Are these, if This Is America comes up again, do we talk about gun control? If DMX comes up again, do we have to mention certain things that he said? If Ludacris comes up, do we have to talk about things he said? If Eminem comes up, do we have to acknowledge where does it stop? Where does it end? Where does it start? What do we do?
Are you talking about like force the topic, or are you talking about like if it comes up organically, do you sidestep, or do you just go through it?
It's more of a very, very general question of, here's the question, and everybody can answer it. As a podcast, do we owe it to the listeners to talk about this shit, or do we owe it to the listeners to leave that shit out of the conversation?
Depends on the listener. Some listeners are going to like one answer, and the other listeners are going to like the other answer.
Right.
I mean, also if it's something we've talked about before in detail, and at what point do we just become a podcast of footnotes? You know?
I love footnotes. I love a good rabbit trail.
Like if it's something we've covered before, and now we're approaching an artist, or they're like in a different context, do we always have to go back and talk about the same stuff we've covered?
Yeah.
Just to check boxes or whatever.
Edit that out.
If evil's talking,
Then it is on you.
No, you could, that's a good point. I'm sorry.
I'll stop being boring.
Well, if what you said was interesting.
Yeah.
I think when it's unavoidable, when it's someone or some band or something that automatically has controversy attached to it, I think it makes sense to at least acknowledge the controversy. It doesn't mean you have to make the entire discussion about that, but I think letting your listeners know that we have educated ourselves on the topic in a well-rounded way. I think that makes sense.
are we gonna educate ourselves in a well-rounded way?
An attempt was made.
Because I think if you skirt over or walk around things, our audience isn't stupid.
That's true.
And
Sorry.
I mean,
It's okay, it was the other camera this time.
God.
Until you made
hey
a thing about
Sven,
it.
we need a fourth. Do you want to come back, please?
I'm sorry.
I agree a lot with what Sven said about the fact that we're human beings and that we have opinions and that it's okay to voice those. I don't see anything wrong with that. I also think that people can pick and choose what they want to listen to.
Yeah.
They can also start their own podcast, But,
I think-
but we're putting the work in
It's a lot of work.
to educate our audience about music, bands, and what happens within that whole sphere.
Yeah.
And there's a lot. So you can't and a lot of it's not great to talk about. So you can't cut out 50% of music history.
Coming at this as an artist, I curate to the point of not having any personality at all on my social media on purpose.
Yeah.
Because it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
And not. And I think even this conversation is making me take a look at what I'm putting out there, which admittedly isn't that much, but still, and going, okay, I talk about authenticity all the time. Am I practicing that truly? After this conversation, I can easily say no.
I will say that a big chunk of feedback this year has been, if we were to have more content or a place we could grow, would be people getting to know more the us, the we's,
Be
like
careful
the actual
what
people.
you wish for.
Exactly. Join us next week when we talk about R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, and Michael Jackson. And
Black
Hitler
Hitler.
joins us to talk. No.
Well, seriously, I think that's how your people are going to find you. And I don't mean like the podcast. I mean
Right.
individually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
That's how your people are going to find you.
Yeah.
Is learning about like those things.
Yeah.
Right.
Like what your hot buttons are, what you do and don't like. And it's good that not everyone has the same things because
yeah.
then a variety of listeners connects with different people. And as someone that's stepping back into that space as not like on this side of the recording and being a listener, I find that way more interesting than just facts and dates and things about the music. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
I can go Wikipedia that.
Yeah.
What do you think about it? And what do you think about that fucked up thing that person did or that person sang about or that, like
It's always the
I can find out
it's
the-
the conversation of the songs that always gets the listeners.
We're not play by play. We're color commentary.
and we're liked for that.
But I'm gonna follow that up and say there is an artist that I'm acquainted with who, when the Israel-Palestine thing started, was very vocal, extremely vocal, and ended up losing hundreds of followers. But not only that, like who gives a shit about that? This person got death threats. This person got
Yikes.
DMs that were absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
And so I do think there is a point where it's like you have to decide which hill you're gonna die on,
you stay
Yeah.
safe for sure.
because this is a society that
Yep.
loves hopping on,
Oh yeah.
and so it's a tightrope.
And for for the discussions that we might have where we miss something and people come after us like, hey, what are you going to say about that artist doing that awful thing? There's going to be a couple who, when we go after like a Michael Jackson, like some certain artists have achieved like a too big to fail sort of like level. And so even, and maybe Michael Jackson's not a good example because there's no hard evidence, and there's a lot of evidence but it's all conjecture. But there are still like Zeppelin is a good example. Zeppelin did some fucking
Crazy shit.
yeah.
Yes.
And
But they're rock stars.
they're rock star. I mean,
I'm saying that's the
so if we start shitting on Zeppelin over, we could pick apart all of the stuff that they did. There's going to be this wave of like, oh, what are you guys doing that for? There's both sides. So
yeah.
But I don't see you ever going into a topic like looking to like point out the the dirt out on
Right.
people.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it would come across that way. I think still like the topics, everyone here, everyone's really good about being like music focused.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like the opinion, your personality that comes across on the hot topics, I think are just on top of that. It's not like you're going into the episode like today we're going to talk about the fucked up thing that so and so did.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
not TMZ.
No.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like it comes up because you're already talking about it.
Sure.
I think that's different, and yeah, I know. I think like that's different than actually like going into like target.
Right,
Let's
right.
get this person. We're gonna talk about this person, and we're gonna,
right.
That's different than like you're just talking about the music and like, oh yeah,
By the way,
this is this thing. That, especially if it had an impact on you. Like we're talking about this album, and okay, so here's why I have a problem with this album or this song or something is because I know that this person. I think that's okay to share. It's different because it is still a music podcast, and you're sharing that in the context of music. But if it was like, did you hear what this band did or this artist did, and that's the episode, then it's like, whoa, it's not even about the music anymore. This is like a tabloid.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And like I've just like I feel very uncomfortable ranking music. Like I'm like,
Me too.
who am I to say this is a 7 or a 10 or a 3?
So I give
whatever.
like 324
I'll tell you,
bananas out of 512.
I'll say if I like it or not, but that's so subjective. Like attaching like numbers to things.
Yeah.
Like I don't.
Well, but isn't you even just saying I like it or I didn't like it is subjective?
Yes.
It's the same is what I'm saying. Is like you adding a number on it or you saying I like it or I don't like it. It's the same.
Because
it's still just your opinion. You're just voicing it differently. I fucking love this album. This album's a 9 out of 10. It's this. You're saying the same thing.
But I think when you say you love an album, it doesn't then present the opportunity to compare, like quantity. Yeah, you can't quantify it versus this other album or this album. Like this is a 9, then this one is an 8, and this one's a 10. If you just say I love it, you can say that about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But if you don't have an equation, how do you know what the best band in the entire world is?
There isn't one.
It's Michael Jackson.
It's Michael.
Isn't it Michael Jackson?
I'm gone for 2 minutes and they start shitting all over the whole basis of our fucking podcast.
I totally thought he was coming in to kiss me.
Aww.
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 Romance.
When
This episode is an 8 out of 10.
when we like decided to like pause with talking about the Daughters album,
Yeah.
I think it's just because it was so like holy what the fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was we needed like time to process, and
I mean,
also the music. I mean, not just that album, but her album, the art that she created
Sure.
as a reaction to
yes,
it is hard to deal with
it is.
in a lot. Like
I'm very much understanding DL's regret and not.
That's my point. That's the thing is,
How can you not talk about it?
let's say we talk about the Daughters album and the violent insanity that it is.
yeah,
Does that not, and this is a genuine question, does that not just add to the conversation? Like, wow, this is really fucked up.
Or
'Cause-
is it giving a platform, like Rachel was saying at the beginning? Is it giving a platform to?
Because it's true. Like, people might hear that, like, if I got rights to music, they'd hear sound bites and be like, I'm gonna buy that album, and then this guy's just a little bit more money. But that's the thing, and maybe that's a whole other question, is I still think that album is goddamn brilliant. What does that make me? Does that make
Piece
me
of
a bad
shit,
person?
David.
That's what I'm asking. Like, the fact that suddenly in my
You
head,
didn't know when you were listening to it.
I would,
Can you? Is it okay to claim ignorance?
I would, no, because I would listen to that album tomorrow and still think, fuck, this
So
is,
you are truly able to separate the art from the artist.
I feel like I could watch the Bill Cosby show tonight and laugh my fucking ass off. Be like, this show's funny as fuck. Knowing
Dude,
that he
I-
was one of the most
Yeah.
disgusting humans that's ever fucking.
He's got some of the most funny stand-up on the planet.
And
I'm agreeing. I haven't like canceled Bill Cosby.
like, I could
think
watch
what he's
it
done
tonight and laugh.
Do you think if you fuckers were women that it would be different?
Yes, that's what I was just about.
probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. If I was
Because
anybody
all
that
of the
I am
things
not,
we're talking
it would be
about have
different.
been offenses against women.
And I'm gonna say that every time this happens, Rachel and I
But
look
there-
at each other like,
But this is okay. But there,
What if it was
I think,
instead of if it was somebody you knew that the offense was against? If Bill Cosby
okay. So
offended somebody,
if I talked about an artist that did things that should be personally reputable for me because of personal reasons,
yeah, does that change it?
I'll say yes, and even if it makes me a shitty person, because like when someone directly harms you, sometimes it can be hard to look at them, just look at their face, just to see an image of them.
Right.
Right. So yeah, it seems very shallow that I could disconnect myself from the victims. Let's just stick with the Bill Cosby example. That like I can disconnect. I'm not gonna pretend like what he did is horrible. I can't pretend that I lived through it. I can't pretend that I identified with it. I hope I never have to go through something like that. I would never support any art that encourages those actions, which is why I think it's so weird that like his show was like a family sitcom, and when you watch that show, it's exactly opposite of everything he was accused of. Like the content of that show doesn't promote any of those things. So this is where I like it, and I don't know.
I see what you're trying to
full
say.
100% say I could be totally messed up and wrong for this, okay? But given the script of the Cosby Show and like watching it, I think it promotes some fairly positive values, and it's a funny sitcom. I don't want to remove that. I don't remove the positive things that this shitty person did. I do think that he did some shitty things, and there should be repercussions. There needs to be, but why take away the one thing that they did that was actually maybe contributing to good? Like find a I don't know. Like I know that this is
Yeah.
I'm not trying to convince you.
No,
but
I know. It's because it's a hard
that's just where I'm
issue.
stuck.
Well, and you've
It's
seen
just
you've seen like the documentaries about the guy that made it. That was like, do you know how many fucking like young black people that show showed? Like, holy fuck, we can be
We
like
be doctors.
regular
100%.
fucking
Yeah.
suburban people. Like, does that just negate the whole show?
That goes back to my question, like if one person, does it ruin the entire, like all the cast?
Now I can't like Rudy Huxtable.
Yeah, right.
Come on.
All of the
What'd she do to you?
and also the like sometimes our reactions are like very primal to things. If like, here's a legitimate question opposed to all the illegitimate questions I've asked before.
A lot of legitimate questions.
If none of us had seen that show before and now know what he has done and then watched it now, would we react differently?
That's like what
than
I was.
if we fucking
That's
grew
like
up
what I
with
was.
it, and it you know, if it existed in a vacuum.
If you hear it before you know what they did, or
Right.
after you know what they did.
You're saying they, it was he. You're like,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
It's one person.
it's
You're messing
the
with
one
pronouns.
part of that. I mean, I know there's more people in that
no, I
band.
get what I get what you're saying.
Yeah, you're condemning the entire band,
Well, yeah.
but maybe they deserve that. I don't know. I don't know anything else about the band.
no, you
Are they
make a good
complicit?
point. You make a good point. I don't know, man.
Complex things, man.
That was awesome.
Sorry. It's the feed the dogs alarm. They get really excited and it's really cute.
Go feed the dogs. So we answered nothing.
No, we sure fucking didn't.
I don't know. I gave a lot of answers.
You did well.
But what's your solid black or white answer?
Well, it's that nothing is black and white, but I think that you need to share your opinions so that people can make up their own minds.
Sure.
That's all. Like, really. And in the end, if someone's making a boatload of money and doing shitty things, then maybe don't help them make boatloads of money anymore. But that's got to be your personal choice.
Yeah.
And then you can express why you made that choice, and then maybe other people hop on your bandwagon, or maybe other people hate you for it, but you stick to what you believe and voice that, and that's how you, I don't know. It's not like you're trying to, I don't think anyone should try to force your opinion on somebody, but when you live what you believe, it attracts other people to like at least consider it and perhaps think and act in a similar way.
You were a listener in the Chuck Berry episodes where essentially it was Evil and I just fucking ejaculating all over ourselves about how amazing he is, while Rachel's saying, dude, the guy fucking like married a 13-year-old.
It's funny you bring that up. I remember listening to that episode because I was driving from here to San Diego, and so I had a good long time in the car, and I actually listened to it twice. And I remember actually like going, yay, Rachel, thank you.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Which doesn't always happen. In that episode, I was going, oh my God, thank God she's there speaking up about this. Because it seemed like it was very easy for you guys to gloss over it. And also the fact, like, Rachel brought up something else in that episode, which was like that iconic riff.
Uh-oh.
Which I know is like not connected.
Do we get into this now?
It's the same fucking riff over and over again. Every goddamn song.
But it's not connected to the issue of
right.
Yes.
being whatever. But the fact is that she stood up quite vehemently to both of you. And she didn't do it aggressively, but she did it like, hey, this is what I believe. And to be 100% honest, it made me respect her far more as a listener than I ever had before.
As a listener, did it make you lose or well, obviously it made you gain respect for her. Did it make you lose respect for us for still loving his music despite the shit that he'd done?
Not for still loving his music. So I was able to say, okay, artist, timing. But what I did find in that episode is that you guys were very quick to go, Rachel, no, stop.
Well,
like, that's not important, right? And I did think, like, wow, she's standing alone on this. And that's not easy. As a listener, I was very proud.
Oh, thanks.
And yeah.
As a female listener or as a listener? Do you feel the same way when it's 1 against 2 when it's one of us?
I do feel when one is getting beat up on, that it's like...
You get mama henny?
I get a little, yeah. I get a little henny. I get a little bit like, oh, come on now, guys. Let's not do that. Like my Wisconsin comes out. Oh, cry, you guys. Just go and play outside. You'll be fine. It's okay.
That's a really good perspective, though.
But it's like, and I don't need everybody to get along all the time. That's not the point.
Well, that's good.
But what it was like definitely a female perspective bringing up a female issue.
Mm-hmm.
Where it was like, okay, please listen to her.
Okay.
Because
it's important and it's relevant because it happened and it shouldn't happen again.
And I think that's something that, like, this is getting a little deep, but I think that you three will never understand walking through a parking lot at night.
Yeah, no.
Right.
Going anywhere at night, being a woman and having breasts.
No.
Being a woman and having long hair to grab. Like, there's being a woman, like, you're just terrified to be in public a lot of the time.
Yeah. If I saw me, if I was a female and saw this thing that I am.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It would be frightening. I get it.
100%.
Right.
Trevor is the first person that I have ever dated that looks anything like him because he looks fucking terrifying. That's why all of these issues that are like women's issues, I think, are hitting me and Kari a lot more, is because they are so close to being a reality for both of us at any moment of any day.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And for you guys, it's not as scary at all. It's scary because like any woman at any point could accuse you of something, and that's what's scary. That's the only point that's scary for you guys. But for us, it's stuff that's happening to us.
100%.
So
Which is why I think it's important to voice
Sure.
your opinions on artists and on things that happen when it's relevant to the album or music that's the topic of the episode. Because without Rachel doing that, you wouldn't have had that experience.
Right.
You wouldn't have gained that much respect, and you wouldn't have, I think you would have felt like it was a very unbalanced podcast and one-sided, and perhaps even been like turned off by the whole, like, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm assuming a lot, but like just
this is my only pushback to that, and it's because I do think that there are other albums and things that we've talked about that I wasn't fucking comfortable with, but we're gonna talk about it because it's a fucking album. If we don't talk about Chuck Berry, conversation doesn't happen. Your whole pushback doesn't happen. So do we?
I agree, but the point that I was attempting to make is that when it's one voice, that I'm not saying you ignored her in any way. You did hear her out. But when it's one voice saying, but this thing, and then it's kind of like, yeah, but.
Okay.
I think it's good to acknowledge that is a thing, like that's a really ugly part of it. And maybe this is why we're having a hard time separating the art from the artist, is because it hasn't been acknowledged. It hasn't, like, more people are saying, yeah, but. I mean, I even said it at the beginning. It's like, that was of a time. I was yeah-butting it. It's not okay. Like, it's not acceptable. It was accepted. And so I think, like, just being able to see the point of view of, like...
I think then there's just a misconstrued assumption that fucking marrying, like, a 13-year-old and taking her across the border is not okay. No, like, it's, for me, it's like, does that need to be, do we need to have a conversation to figure out that that's not okay? Because
clearly.
You think so?
I think the fact that
I don't think any of us said it was okay. He
Yes,
did that,
and?
but also, like, let's talk about the music. Let's forget that happened. That's what, it's more of that.
Okay.
You're
Is
not
this more-
forgetting
okay.
it. You're just not acknowledging it.
I wasn't on the episode, but I have a feeling, because up until this very episode, there's been a lot of skirting around sensitive issues. Was this an attempt then maybe just like, let's dodge the sensitive
This was one of
thing
the,
and move to the next
This is
thing?
one of the initial
I'm asking.
things that started this episode. Me saying we need to figure this shit out. Because what I don't want to do is I don't want to have a fucking episode about Chuck Berry where we're talking about what he did wrong in his life. I don't want to do that. I want to talk about Johnny Be Good and did he rip this shit off and did he not, and look what he did for guitar. That's what I want to talk about. And you're bringing to light things that, yes, maybe that's not possible for an hour episode. Maybe we need to, and not that there's a specific allotted time that we're supposed to give, but you need to acknowledge that there were things that this guy did in his life that was shitty. But then my point is, where's the line? Then bringing it back for the 100th time, then what about the Daughters album? Then do we do 50% of what he did, or do we just not talk about, like, you know what I mean? Where do we allow ourselves to talk about the music and the artist, or vice versa, or are we just not allowed when it's a specific time, place, person?
I feel like for Chuck Berry, for a lot of things, we go into it completely blind and then do research, rabbit hole, and then be like, oh shit, well, he sex trafficked girls. That's great. You're going into something knowing full well that there's this huge blemish on this artist. Again, not proven, but not proven either. So
And to be clear,
there is a little bit of...
I didn't know what he had done when we started researching the
I
album.
think there's most of the time when I go into studying somebody, I don't know unless it's like something that was huge in the news very recently.
Mm-hmm.
But then, man, do I just feel just so disappointed in the world. But
and then I get scared of the fact that, you know, we're on a music podcast where we talk about rock stars. They're all pieces of shit. We could very well just end up not talking about fucking anybody. Like,
that's true.
Maybe it's a point of to say, like, I don't know, artists. Like, here's something about the artist, good and bad, you know?
yeah.
And then say, like, yeah, hey, we acknowledge these good things happen, these bad things happen, now we're going to talk about the music. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe that's overkill. Maybe that's like being too 2023. I don't know.
At what point do we decide, hey, Chuck Berry, guys, we just figured out that this guy did this, this, and this. Do we still talk about it?
Well, okay, but can you think of any artist? I'm sure there are plenty, but can you think of an artist off the top of your head that doesn't have any controversy associated with them?
If your point is like they all have issues,
Right.
then yes,
Like,
they do.
Do you know of anybody who doesn't? Whether it's addiction or you know, cheating or.
No, that's why I love them.
Well, man, you know, it's your podcast.
But that's the thing. It's our podcast,
You know-
and it's their podcast. And you know,
That's a really good point. When you were labeling off sins, you said addiction, which is not necessarily something that affects other people. We've talked about like sexual things, children things that are bad.
it's the stem
But-
of something that will affect other people.
But addiction is really just hurting yourself mostly, but your family and friends and whatever, blah, 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 but not like you're ultimately hurting yourself. And you, David, had said, I like my rock stars addicted to heroin. You know, that's, you want a rock star. So
If
ultimately,
you want to
like,
get on this show,
every single musician has this horrible thing about them. So why are we excluding any of them? Because like, who is without sin? Dolly Parton, and that's it, right? Is there anyone else?
well, I'm one step farther from trying to figure out what the fuck we're supposed to do, and I guess that's okay. The night is darkest before the dawn. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
What did you expect?
I thought we're probably not going to talk about the Daughters album. That's
3 hours later.
I apologize that kept being the thing, but that was by far the best example. It really was.
That and Cosby.
I
I tried to bring Hitler in.
with the Jello and the Daughters.
Oh, jeez.
We can just end it. We don't even need to. We can just be done.
Oh no.
All right.
Okay, but you gotta stand up one time so that you can get a shot.
Oh,
That's one of my heroes.
And we're out. Hey, thank you, listeners, for 3 seasons almost. Come back next week for the finale. No matter who you agree with, who you don't agree with, hopefully you can still be friends with each and every one of us. At least the girls.